Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. This should be a really fun one. We can go through a lot of different roadmap stuff, mainly focusing on the very soon vTHOR launch. We can get into all those details. Basically, just how this will go. We have a handful of things to cover first, and then we will go to audience questions as well. So people can request later to come up and speak, or we have the stage chat channel, which you should see right by like the stage that you're in right now, and you can drop questions in there. We'll get to those after we kind of go through some course stuff. But yeah, feel free to drop questions in there now or later, and we'll start going through those later on. But yeah, maybe we should just start by introducing ourselves up here just a little bit. I'm Chad Thoreau. I do content for THORSwap, so I make the tutorial videos that you might see on the THORSwap community YouTube and host Twitter Spaces and things like this stage.
Yeah, sure, I'll go.
Go,
I'm
Marky.
Mogaki. I'm the engineering manager with THORSwap. So just try to keep all of our engineering efforts, moving towards achieving our long-term vision and goals. And we've got a lot of those. So it's a really exciting space to build in. Just really happy to be a part of it and excited to be here and talk with you guys.
Awesome. I'm Uncle Badgers. I'm part of the DGen team for THORSwap. I started as a community member actually, and just helped out on the Discord and eventually helped out on tickets. And now I help with help construct vTHOR actually. I was part of the team that helped construct that and do all the DGen stuff. So started as a simple DGen, now working DeFi.
I just want to say I think it's amazing that we have professional DGens on staff. That's like one of the coolest things about working in the space.
Yeah. Who knew that would be a job
Yeah.
title that you'd have in
DGen
2022?
manager.
Head DGen.
I know, like put it on my LinkedIn DGen manager.
Yeah, I'm head Twitter shit poster and classic.
I've been a shit poster for 10 years. I need a raise.
Only the finest shit posts. Oleg, do you want to give a quick little intro?
Sure. So I'm Oleg Petrov. Recently joined the THORSwap team back in January. I'm a backend engineer, and I mostly work on the cross-chain API and just general THORSwap stuff.
Awesome. Definitely excited to get into some API alpha later on. I would say a good place for us to start, and anyone can just chime in. But let's just start with the vTHOR stuff, and then we'll expand onto broader roadmap stuff. But who would like to take a stab at just explaining the overview of vTHOR and just simply what is vTHOR and why should we care?
I think we should hand that over to our lead DGen.
I'll try and keep it simple. So what is vTHOR? It's an enhanced version of a current staking model. So it's optimized for gas efficiency for the user. It's optimized to accrue value for the user, and it's optimized for us as a protocol to distribute our fee sharing system. Okay, so with that, it's composable ERC 4626. If you don't know what that is a brand new token variant on Ethereum network that is going to be the start of DeFi essentially. It allows other protocols to build on top of each other in a more composable way. So it's already, quite far ahead in DeFi space. But not only that, it's allows you to have governing rights. It allows users and members to accrue value from THORSwap's revenue structure. And its rewards are distributed daily, so it's very efficient in that sense, that it's daily auto compounding. And yes, that's the general gist of it, as simple as I could make it.
Yeah, I'll try to go even one step simpler without any acronyms. Basically, when THORSwap is charging fees for swaps, vTHOR is a mechanism for Thor holders to share in those profits. And I think that if you understand that on the most fundamental level, then you understand the purpose and value of vTHOR.
Beautiful. Yeah, would agree. I think that's the number one key point for people to be to understand vTHOR and to be excited about. You're participating in the THORSwap fee. You're getting a share of that accrued back to stakers. So basically, your ability to participate in the usage of THORSwap. Cool. On the ERC 4626 point, Badger, maybe you could go like a little deeper on that. Like that might be getting ahead of ourselves, but like what are some of those future composable things that could come out of like that part of the design?
Well, a lot of protocols adopting this. So you have Alchemix, Yearn, RGT, and basically it's like vault strategies. So this is essentially V4, essentially a vault strategy. Any vault strategy on Yearn, that is also one. So if you have any Y tokens, and basically you create whatever you create can be built on top of. So any strategies you build can be automatically like adapted by other protocols. So it elevates the level of composability within the DeFi system to basically build massive DeFi Lego blocks. It means that you have like a very good compared like strategic advantage over TradFi because it means just the adoption and creativity from that.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be really exciting to see what composability comes out of this. Let's like dig a bit just further into the fee structure. Maybe Mogarky, would you like to take that? Just an explanation of like the fee and how that's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So as everybody probably knows, up until this point in time, or maybe people don't know, THORSwap has not charged any fee to the users. We have focused more on just getting users to use the platform, driving adoption, driving volume through the protocol, working out all of the bugs, making sure our feature set is complete. Unfortunately, nothing can be free forever. So we're going to be turning on some fees in the pretty near term. We're starting out with a 0.3% fee, so less than 1%, but quite a bit less. But 75% of that 0.3% will be given back to vTHOR stakers. So even though that protocol fee is 0.3%, more than 0.2% of it is going to be going back to vTHOR stakers. So the more trading that happens on the THORSwap protocol, whether that's through our coming mobile apps or our existing DEX, whether that's going to come through our aggregator, which we're going to talk more about, all of those fees, the vast majority of them is always going back to the user base and to the community. And that's one of the biggest focuses of THORSwap overall in the long run, is being community driven and community owned. We don't want to be some centralized entity that's just getting high on the hog, collecting all these fees. We want the community to be THORSwap and THORSwap to be the community. So I think it's a really cool model that encourages people to hold the Thor token, to be supporters of THORSwap, and to be able to just easily share in that fee sharing revenue model. From the very beginning, as soon as THORSwap starts to make money, the community starts to make money with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also add that these rates are competitive. 0.3% is on par with SushiSwap and Uniswap, and also compared to other Thor chain interfaces, it's competitive as well. I won't go into details what other people are charging, like 1%, but it's within the DeFi realm. It's the most competitive rate, and also this also helps THORSwap create a revenue for itself to be sustainable as a protocol and to fund the team and fund future projects and operations. So it is key to essentially being a sustainable financial institution, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Having the bulk of it go back to the users, I I think of myself still first and foremost as a user and community member. And, it gets me excited to be able to participate in the adoption of THORSwap through staking Thor to vTHOR and having 75% of all the fees accruing back to those stakers. And yeah, like you mentioned, Badger, like the other 25%, I mean, that's necessary for the builders, right? I mean, that funds the devs, that funds everything to keep THORSwap on the bleeding leading edge of all these new features and products and everything that we have coming out.
Yeah, I might drop a little bit alpha. Like the past 2 months, we were almost processing like 500 million a month, which is well astronomical, really. The increased monthly basis is quite high. So with that trajectory, you're looking at 0.3% on 500 million. It's pretty good for a protocol.
Yeah, it's quite fun to do the math on that. There was a tweet thread maybe a week or two ago from THORSwap that broke down some numbers. But yeah, I would encourage anyone to just do a bit of math there and just extrapolate what that might mean for stakers. It gets pretty interesting, and then as we'll probably get into more later, but then you add the aggregator on top of that and all the expected growth of just everything as a whole through the aggregator, through the API, through just the growth of Thorchain as a whole and general adoption. I mean, it's quite exciting to think about how that's going to scale.
I'll just also explain the mechanics of vTHOR as well for people to understand as well. So basically, it follows the XSUSHI / spell model. So let's say there's 100 Thor in the vTHOR pool. Okay, so 100 Thor is essentially backing 100 vTHOR. So that means the ratio is 1-to-1. The pool starts up as a ratio 1-to-1 at the beginning. As more rewards are distributed to the pool, the ratio changes. So more vTHOR is backed by Thor. So let's say there's 100 vTHOR backed by 100 Thor. Then the protocol via the fees revenue system distributes the rewards to the pool, let's say 10 Thor. So that means 110 Thor is backing 100 vTHOR. So then now the ratio is 1 to 1.1. So as a user, if you had 10 Thor staked, you'd initially have 10 vTHOR. And as that revenue increases and the ratio increases and it's 1.1, your 10 then becomes 11. So when you exit the pool or withdraw your funds, you will get back 11 vTHOR. I mean your 11th Thor instead of your vTHOR. So that's just a simple mathematics on how the pool actually works and the backing of vTHOR essentially.
Great, yeah, and you touched on the gas efficiency, and that's where that comes from. You don't have to. There's no claiming. There's no restaking. You just stake your Thor to your vTHOR, and you just hold that, and it's auto compounding. There's really nothing to do. Just that in the future, that vTHOR is redeemable for a higher ratio of Thor.
Yeah, that's 100%. A great. And that's.
One of the things about like the current Thor staking model is, really the same as many staking models. You always are just trying to wonder, like, when should I restake, and at what point does the gas become worth it? How long am I going to remain in the staking pool? And to not have to think about that anymore and just to watch your value keep accruing is a major benefit here.
And you'll see that daily as well. It'll be auto compounding daily as well. So there's nothing for you to do. You don't have to like claim your rewards and restake them. So you can literally see the value, like the ratio increasing every single day. And it's as gas efficient as it can be.
Cool. And maybe I'm sure a question before we get into like, we'll do questions from everyone later, but I'm sure one question that everyone's probably thinking is like the one question, right? So what can we say here as far as when vTHOR is going to be available to everyone?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, Bogachi.
Yeah, are we?
No, I think now's the time to drop the alpha for sure.
I think so.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're talking very soon, a lot sooner than probably most people have been expecting. So let me pull up my calendar here. Sorry, just one second. Yeah, basically, turning on vTHOR to the public is going to be the 4th of May from our current timeline.
Epic, yeah. And there will be some fees accrued beforehand as well. That'll kind of help for the early stakers. So there'll definitely be some incentive to get in to migrate over relatively quick, because there will be some fee accruing before then too. So next week that the fee should be turned on, but then like the following 7 or 9 days, I think it's next Monday, sorry, the 25th, I think, is when the fee should turn on. So yeah, that'll be a nice boost at the beginning. And another thing we didn't quite exactly touch on, maybe Badger, you could go into this a bit more, but this will also help reduce emissions, right? Because right now, like the legacy Thor staking is purely from emissions, right? So with this, that will help that side scale down over time, right?
Yeah, 100%. So currently emissions is purely the vast majority is just towards single side staking. So that's where our emissions mainly go. Emissions won't stop, obviously, because we want to distribute to the community. We want the communities to be the majority of the holders. It's just how we distribute those emissions to the community. It could work in our favor. So right now, majority of it goes to single side Thor staking and also Olympus Pro, so we can acquire liquidity and users can acquire discounted Thor. So basically, in the long run, we want to be running on a sustainable trajectory, and with this fee structure, you're looking at becoming more sustainable and running on a budget surplus rather than a budget deficit. And I've run the numbers, and it looks quite promising to be eventually, when we have all our own protocol and liquidity, we could start be running on a budget surplus, and we could use those emissions in different ways to, like, I don't want to drop too much, foreseeable future or my own opinion where DeFi is going, but we could use it for like Olympus Pro, you could use it for Tokamak, we can use those emissions in different ways to reward our users, but also like increase our foothold within the DeFi space. And that's very important for any DeFi protocol to do that. And it's also great that we can, use our missions as leverage, because the fee structure is looking quite sustainable at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's super critical to understand, is like a lot of protocols, if they don't have that utility mechanism in the long run, then, you might start out really juicy in the beginning and have a ton of protocol emissions and super nice APYs. But what vTHOR is creating is just a sustainable model that, the more THORSwap succeeds, the more that the token holders will be rewarded. And there's really no upper limit to how far we can take that into the future. I think that's a really exciting model, and, going to take us, many years into the future of sustainability for the Thor token and, benefit Thor holders.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting. Any other things we haven't touched on with vTHOR before we go on to roadmap, and we can always come back to questions on this, but any aspects we haven't touched on?
I saw two questions in the stage chat. So basically, I just saw someone still asking about the Thor and vTHOR mechanism. So just trying to explain with different words. Basically, the fee that is being accrued from the protocol will be used to deposit more Thor in the pool. So this way, the ratio will change between how many Thor are backed, how many vTHORs are backed by how many Thors. So that's how you accrue the value. By the protocol depositing more Thor in that pool. If I explained it incorrectly, please correct me, guys. But I think that's the gist of it. Yeah. And also, I saw someone asking if the API and the aggregator will also contribute, and the answer is yes. So basically, the fees or the revenues accrued from the API will also be used to accrue value for our users.
Also, just want to note, anyone in the space, in DeFi space, if you don't know the difference between APR and APY, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But basically, APR is just is without the daily auto compounding or the monthly or the weekly, and so APY, when it can be portrayed in different manners in the DeFi space to show you're having more yield or less yield, essentially. But basically, the APY is that it's daily auto compounding, but currently on our protocol it's projected as APR, which isn't auto compounding, but that will change in the future with vTHOR, which makes it better for everyone, essentially.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I do see more questions coming in on this. I would say maybe let's finish through some other roadmap stuff, and then we can circle back to all the questions and people can come up or just drop them in stage chat. Sound good to you guys?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So let's see. Well, the other probably most imminent exciting thing is the aggregator. So yeah, let's talk about what to expect with the V1 of the aggregator.
I can start with a high-level overview of what V1 aggregator is going to look like. And Oleg has been our lead developer on that API project. So if anybody wants to get super technical into the nitty-gritty, he's here to definitely answer any of those questions. So definitely appreciate him joining in that regard. If you're not familiar with the aggregator concept overall, we can just start there and talk about THORchain, and the power that THORchain has brought to the DeFi ecosystem is essentially connecting chains that have never been able to be connected before, right? So you have things like native Ethereum and native Bitcoin, which have basically lived in their own siloed worlds. And the only way that you've had historically to transact between them might be between, a multi-step bridge or through a centralized exchange. And what THORchain did for the first time was create, these big liquidity pools where anyone can come swap on demand these layer 1 assets, which is, amazing and revolutionary. And I think we all understand that. But what THORchain is not super good at is including all of the long tail assets that exist in all of those silos. It just doesn't make sense for all the assets on every chain to be THORchain native pools. So if you look at Ethereum, which is the first example that we're going to have in the aggregator, you've got thousands of tokens available on the Ethereum protocol, thousands of ERC20s. And I think we've only got maybe 25 to 30 on the THORchain protocol itself. So that leaves a whole bunch of assets that don't have access to all those other benefits, like connecting into native Bitcoin or to Terra, Luna, UST, all the benefits that THORchain brings to ETH into the 20 tokens that are in its pools are not brought to all the other assets that are available on the Ethereum chain or on any other chain. So the idea of the aggregator is to be able to connect all of those other long tail assets that exist on whichever silo chain you're talking about. First one is going to be ETH, giving them the power to connect into the THORchain ecosystem and to be able to do those swaps for layer 1 native assets in a decentralized way without using a centralized exchange. So that's basically the major overview of V1. So what does that mean for a user? What will you be able to do? You'll be able to come to THORSwap and take any token that you might have. Maybe that's the Uniswap token or it's Shiba Inu or whatever you might be holding. And you can do just in a single transaction and say swap that into Luna on the Terra chain. And you're not going to have to go use a bridge. You're not going to have to sign 4 different transactions. You're not going to have to think about gas on different chains. You're just going to have one asset in your wallet, ERC20, be able to decide that you want Bitcoin coming out the other end or Luna coming out the other end, click submit, and we do everything else in the background. So that's kind of the general overview of the aggregator and the power that it brings. And Like I said, ETH is the first version, and then from there we'll expand out and start doing Terra and CW20s, and then we'll move on to other EVM chains, Solana. So really, the sky is the limit for this aggregator, and it's all about driving volume into THORSwap, into the THORSwap protocol, and ultimately, as we drive revenue, that's really good for vTHOR. So the more chains we connect, the more long tail assets we get, the more volume we drive, the more that accrues rewards for vTHOR holders, and it's kind of a self-compounding cycle that will just keep growing.
Great overview.
Basically, the TLDR is THORchain connects all the short tail assets, and then THORSwap connects all the long tail assets, and that's the main synergy between the two. Because THORchain basically, it's not economically viable for the nodes to secure loads of long tail assets like on the Ethereum network, like the Alchemix pool and whatnot. So it makes total sense to use the aggregators for users to be able to access those on external liquidity pools.
Awesome. Yeah, great explanations. And then just to highlight that last point from Mogarky is everything we were just talking about with vTHOR, with the 0.3% fee being turned on, and with the 75% fee sharing to stakers, that's on top of this as well. So that means all of these new potential swaps, all of this new potential volume, that's all applying here with vTHOR. So the synergy between these things is really where it gets especially exciting. Oleg, would you like to explain? I would love to hear more about the API and like what else that can lead to. I mean, my technical understanding is not that deep, but I understand it's needed just for the aggregator at all. But what's kind of like where that is headed and what that will allow for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Mogarky explained it very well in terms of how it will be integrated within THORSwap. So obviously the API that we're building will be available, like the functionalities that it enables, it will be available directly on the THORSwap interface. But while the THORSwap interface is geared and aims to serve like human end users, the API can also serve directly wallets, protocols, coin trackers, and many other dApps. So not only for internal use, but it will also enable third-party projects to integrate all of what THORchain has to offer. So that's a huge volume driver as well, because you do have quite a few benefits of adding this API or the functionality it exposes through your project. Basically, you enable liquidity from all the other chains to flow through your dApp, well, potentially. So that's a huge opening, and we think that it will be very popular amongst probably wallets that want to do cross-chain swaps directly in the wallet. So that's what we're also aiming. So not only enabling those functionalities of trading long-tail assets from THORSwap, but also just exposing THORchain functionalities outside of just the THORSwap and other ecosystems and just at large. So I think that's one of the good feature. And if we go, I'll just walk everyone through without going too technical on how does it work. So basically, we have a quote endpoint where the user or the dApp or whatever, they just input a sell asset, a buy asset, and a sell amount and an optional slippage value. And any of those assets can either be, for now, in phase one, an ERC20 or a native asset that is supported on THORchain. And basically, internally, we have multiple liquidity sources, and we compute what the best trade is, and we account for gas and slippage. And then we return the complete quote for either the end user or the dApp or whatever, with the estimated outcome and all the necessary information to build a transaction. So you don't have to worry about anything. We take care of all the formatting. We tell you what contract or what address you need to poke, what's all the call data that you need to feed to that contract. And basically, you have all the information for your end user to just execute the transaction.
Great explanation there. And would you mind just running through quickly for this first version of which providers are going to be supported as far as the API and which AMMs we can connect to there?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically now we're integrated with Uniswap v2, Uniswap v3, SushiSwap, 1inch, and 0x. So just 1inch and 0x, they cover a very broad amount of liquidity protocols as well. So basically, we have a very, very wide coverage of all Ethereum assets. And so by default, we poke all of those 5 sources and we compare what are the routes that they are offering, what the trades look like, and we compute what's the best outcome for the end user, and we return all the information for that specific trade. But then you are also able to specify, okay, I want a quote, but I only want to supply or get a quote from those 2 providers. Let's say you have liquidity in one of those pools and you want to redirect some of the trades through either Uniswap V2 or V3 specifically. You can also provide that to the API.
Like an aggregator of aggregators.
In some ways, yes. Yes. But we also have integrations directly with liquidity sources, just to be more efficient business-wise and gas-wise, and just be more efficient as well, because we all know that Uniswap and SushiSwap, they have very deep liquidity with very competitive slippage.
And the TLDR for the API, if I understand correctly, is essentially providing financial services for other institutions within DeFi.
Exactly. So all of the functionalities enabled by the API will be available on THORSwap, but we can also expose THORSwap and THORChain functionalities to other dApps as well. So that should be a big driver of volume as well, because it might be a bit harder right now to face all the challenge of integrating with the very fast-moving multi-chain ecosystem that THORChain is. So the API will provide a developer-friendly interactive documentation, and it will just be very stable. So you can just rely on this API for all your cross-chain needs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is really the key takeaway for myself as a small brain. That's the part that gets me really excited is, like you said, Oleg, it's one thing to have the THORSwap interface and for us as THORSwap to attract our own users, but it's an entirely another level to just have basically a THORSwap backend into various apps and wallets and institutions, whoever might end up using this, and then all of that potential volume, theoretically, I mean, that could in long term into the future, that could be far larger than like direct THORSwap, even just speculating, like who knows, but the potential there is really exciting.
Absolutely, definitely excited to get some metrics once we launch, and with all the crackdown and regulations that are happening and aiming to crypto businesses. If I'm starting a wallet right now, I want to be decentralized, and if I want to do cross-chain swaps, we want to position ourselves as the main solution for that kind of a transaction. And definitely, I think it will be a need, and I think it's not a sure thing that we will be able to rely on centralized exchange for all of our cross-chain swaps in the future. And that's why we also want to expose and democratize all of those functionalities.
Absolutely, and making it as easy as possible for any of these providers to integrate, like rather than having to, build all this stuff from scratch or interface with THORChain on their own. This is just plug in the THORSwap API, and you have all that functionality ready to go.
And also, so being THORChain, integrating with THORChain, there are no locked assets or anything that you need to that you left behind or that you need to worry about. Are those wrapped Ethereum are still in that contract? You don't need to worry about any of those things. So all the transactions are natively final. So once you route all the transactions that we're spitting out, basically you can assume that they will be final and there are no locked assets anywhere. It's really just native transactions.
Awesome. So on the aggregator and the API, actually one basic question there, are these on the same timeline? Like, for example, like once the aggregator is live on THORSwap, like does that essentially mean it's at the same time ready to be integrated elsewhere? Or is that like kind of, is there additional requirements before that's ready?
So basically for version 1 of the API, we will be using that first and foremost inside of the THORSwap DEX, which you guys all know and love, right? We've all been using the THORSwap DEX. But this may be the next part of our conversation. I might be jumping ahead a little bit here, but I feel like it fits in here really well to start talking about the Hammer wallet. So we are actually building a mobile wallet that's going to be multi-chain native. So we're creating one wallet that will support all of your different assets across all your different chains. And by using the power of the THORSwap API and the cross-chain aggregator, you'll be able to swap inside of that wallet from any asset to any asset without ever having to leave, without having to go to any bridge, without having to go to any website, without having to worry about where you connect your wallet. You just live inside of that wallet. You hold your assets there. You have one seed phrase to back up and take care of. And that's going to be like the next iteration in the evolution of how to use the API. And we're going to build that as a fully open source product so that anyone else who's building a wallet product who wants to use our API can come and see exactly how we did that. Exactly, the easiest, most efficient way to interact with our API. It's right here in a reference design, and come see, come learn, build your own, and plug into our API. So that's kind of be like the 3 steps of evolution is number 1, the DEX, number 2, the Hammer wallet, and then number 3, open to the world. Everybody can come and use the API. And somewhere in between those things, we'll have, select partners that we're working closer with that will have earlier access, help us work out all the edge cases, all the bugs, get the API perfected over time.
That's awesome. I really like the idea of the Hammer wallet because as someone who goes from multiple chains, having the fragmentation of services of wallet providers and many other services like bridges is just in crazy like attention to remember like your Phantom wallet for Solana, your Terra Station and all these different seed phrases and where have you stored them and what browser you're using them on. Where it's just simplified on THORSwap as just one wallet to suit the needs of all. Because as THORSwap integrates Ledger and integrates all these different wallets, we see like how much fragmentation there is, and we're providing a solution to that basically.
Absolutely, yeah. Hammer wallet is extremely exciting. Just a very much still underserved market, both multi-chain wallets and good mobile wallets. That's definitely some alpha leak. Like we up here have seen what it's going to look like, and I can say that it definitely looks really, really nice, really clean, really user friendly, and ultimately really functional. Like it's not just some, like it'll basically be THORSwap, but in a new format, mobile, all of that. And then even tying this back to vTHOR, again, this is more potential, another market for volume and all of that. So it really all ties together pretty beautifully.
And that goes back to the API. If other protocols integrate with our API, that means there's more fees and revenue distributed to as rewards to v4 participants.
Yeah, one of the analogies I've made a few times is, what we're doing with Hammer Wallet is creating a reference design in a lot of ways similar to how Google creates a reference design for Android phones. So they create the Pixel phone and kind of say to the world, hey, this is how we think you could or should make an Android phone. But Google's actually not upset that Samsung is the largest maker of Android phones in the world. So we want to do the same thing with, our API product. Hopefully the Hammer wallet becomes the largest, most popular wallet in the world. But more importantly than that is if we can have, hundreds of other wallets, or at least tens of other wallets using the API, then everything is THORSwap in the back end. And whether or not you choose our interface, we hope that you do, you're still going to be providing value to the THORSwap community and back to the vTHOR stakers.
Yeah, that's what's really exciting, right? Is, like a lot of times in the Thor chain world, it's like, oh, these are just front end interfaces or whatever. But really, THORSwap is a front end and a back end. And like you were just saying, THORSwap can win either way. Like, yeah, of course, ideally, and we'll push for using our front ends, but ultimately, like, we're also rooting for our competitors in a sense, because if we can have our back end plugged in there, then we're winning on all fronts. So that aspect is really exciting.
Yeah, I think an easy way to think of it is like the API helps turn your competitors into partners.
Yeah, I love that. Totally. It really does.
One question I just saw in the stage chat. I believe I know the answer, but I'll let the pros answer this one. If Hammer Wallet will come with its own token, is that
When?
decided yet? When?
When? That's to
When
be
token?
disclosed, or whether that just goes back to Thor. We have undisclosed.
Undisclosed. Okay, that's the official answer.
Yes.
To be determined, I suppose, but at the bare
Yes.
minimum, Thor and will stake to vTHOR. You know, it's all connected. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It will use THORSwap's API, so it's still a partner.
exactly. Yeah, it's still THORSwap backend. It's just a new front end, a new user facing product.
Yeah, you need, if you're going to have an aggregator to connect all the chains, you need a wallet to connect all the chains as well.
Yeah, I'm maybe one of the only ones. But, I love the Keystore wallet, but the Hammer wallet is a way to turn the Keystore's power into something that, users can easily wrap their minds around, understand, feel safe using, have a lot better security than, trying to store a text file or figure out how to back up your text file without exposing it to your cloud provider. So I think that, usability is a major problem in DeFi, even for experienced DeFi users. When you come to a new platform, there's always hurdles and things to understand and learn. And the more that we make it accessible to users, the more we make it super easy. Hey, do you want to learn how to do DeFi? Just download this one app. You can do everything there. That's going to be kind of the holy grail of mass adoption in the long run.
Absolutely. Back to the Hammer token question for a second. I'm looking in our team chat, and while it might be TBD, yeah, the plan is no separate token. So all would be Thor. Potentially that could change, but at least that's the plan. Cool. Yeah, I would say if anyone from the audience wants to start requesting, we'll dig through the stage chat questions as well. But if anyone wants to raise their hand, the button in the bottom left, you can also come up and ask your question via voice if anyone wants to. Yeah, otherwise, let's dig through. Feel free to drop any new questions in the stage chat. We'll probably just work from the most recent questions, since I'm sure some earlier questions have already been covered. But yeah, feel free to drop any questions in there.
And also go ham with the emojis as well. If you like a question someone's asked, just give it a little
Great
thumbs up,
point.
a little full emblem, and we'll tend to that one.
Oh, I actually had a question I meant to ask in the meantime while we were still on Hammer Wallet, but I saw this question around on Twitter recently. But Ledger potentially, is there any alpha we can drop there? I know that's often a hurdle for wanting to use mobile. So anything that we could, is that confirmed? Anything we can say about Ledger with Hammer?
For the mobile side, as far as I understand, it's definitely confirmed. It's just a matter of, can we fit it into V1, or is it going to come a little bit later down the road? So, connecting any kind of external device, whether that's via USB or NFC, Bluetooth, it's going to add a little bit more complexity to the wallet overall. It's definitely on our roadmap, something we're going to support in the app. I'm just not sure if we'll make that into the first release or that'll come a little bit further down the road.
I would like to also add there's going to be a new setup for adding liquidity with a ledger, which should be a lot more user friendly and accessible.
Yeah, and the web interface, definitely watch out for that really soon. We're making Ledger Liquidity a much better experience. No more wondering what happened to half of your transaction, having to go find the pending page or any of that stuff. Just going to walk you through the process, make it smooth and easy, and a lot more easy to work with overall.
Yeah, very excited for that one. And I think that's just kind of a core thing that we want to do at THORSwap overall is just how can the interface just be as helpful in walking you through any of these more complicated situations as possible. So yeah, I think that's a big one. I'm really excited to see that new flow go live. Cool. JR, how's it going?
All right, guys, how you doing?
Go easy on me, JL.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, I've been in THORchain for so long, but while users are using THORSwap and they're doing swaps like on a single chain, not cross chain, but the opposite, like BEP2 to BEP2, a Terra swap like UST to Luna. Is that routed through Rune, or what are the logistics with that kind of swap on a single chain? What when you have this DEX aggregator going and you're doing a ERC20 swap?
Yeah, so right now
the Rune's out of the picture at that point, correct?
Right now today, if you use THORSwap for that type of trade, it's going to be through the Rune asset, through the THORchain protocol. But you're right. Once we have the DEX aggregator, then that's no longer necessary. So the answer to the question will be, and Oleg can probably answer this better than anyone, but the answer to the question will be whoever's got the cheapest price. So that's where the swap will happen. So maybe that's on Uniswap, maybe it's on Sushi, maybe it's through some other provider, but the API is going to help find that most efficient price and provide that swap for you. No THORchain necessary in those cases.
Right. So that helps solve the whole 3x gas problem with, using THORchain for ERC20 swaps, long tail assets. And that's a big deal, I think. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And a lot of people complain about the gas prices on a Ethereum swap using THORchain, but this will be a huge improvement.
Yep, exactly. The way I think about it is that THORchain itself isn't really optimized in any way for those single chain swaps, right? Like it has this more complex system that allows for the cross chain swaps, obviously. But then with the aggregator, then THORSwap or any API partner just becomes this place that you're just getting the best swap, whatever you want it to do, right? So if that's ERC20 to ERC20, then that's actually not even using THORchain at all. Still has a THORSwap fee, still benefits vTHOR, all of that, even if it's not actually using THORchain. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to think out in the future. There's going to be quite a few swaps that definitely don't use THORchain, and that's yet again more potential volume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just didn't know about the Terra side of things and the Binance chain, BNB chain, how that was going to play out. Like if you're just doing, if you're staying on that blockchain.
For now, the API is only aggregating, is only interfacing aggregators and AMMs from the Ethereum chain. But in the future, once we expand to other chains, then it will be possible. Let's say to go from an ERC20 to a CW20 in one go. But as well as CW20 to another CW20, or stay on the same chain. And as the others pointed out, we won't be necessarily using THORchain. And one of the benefits is also in the API, there will be an option where you can retrieve all the different routes, and we can just flag for you what's the optimal one. So you can also compare and see if you prefer some option versus another, but you also get the expected outcome. So you can also decide for yourself, depending on the fees or the difference in price.
Yeah, that would be good. I've noticed on, when I use, like, for example, the Zerion wallet app, it gets you the best price, but then it gives you, if you click on the provider that it chooses, you can select, a different option. It might be more expensive. It might be, slower, cheaper, but it gives you the option. That's great. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks
man. Take it easy.
Thanks for the question. One question, there's a few here from Austin Allen in the chat. This first one kind of relates in a sense. Will the aggregator allow for swaps both in and out of THORchain to start? First, I'll just kind of clarify like the difference between swap in and swap out. So swap in is when THORchain is the last step, right? So an ERC20, you're swapping from, Shiba to Luna or whatever, and it's routing through the Sushi or Uni step first, and then it's doing the THORchain step last. Whereas swap out is where THORchain is doing, there's a swap on the THORchain side, and then it's going out and doing another swap. So, maybe Oleg or Mogarky, could you add any color around when we what we might expect as far as the swap out?
Yeah, so swap out is just requiring a little bit more work from the THORchain core protocol team before that becomes available. So we've actually already got that built into our API. We're ready to go with the swap out logic and the contract side of things on the aggregator. So it's just a matter of waiting for the protocol team to finish building that functionality and get it ready to go. So, I don't have an exact timeline for that, but I would say, sooner than later. It's closer than we think.
That's awesome. I'll touch on this question just real quick from most recent question from Basic regarding JR's question. When the swap is done outside of THORchain, will any fees be collected since it's not using the affiliate fee in the memo? So my understanding is yes, the aggregator fee will still be the 0.3%. So basically the THORSwap fee is essentially flat across any of these swaps, whether it's THORchain or not. Is that all correct?
I think it got clarified in team chat. From my understanding, for now, it would just be like a little goodie that we offer on the side, and we would not add another fee on top of, let's say, Uni 0.3% fee.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, I see that now. Gotcha. Okay, cool. He does say for now, so yeah, might be adjusted in the future. Yeah, so we'll see where that ends up. Cool.
But also, 1inch I'm sure of. 0x I would need to confirm again, but they also have affiliate fee programs. So maybe there's also a way to integrate with those programs and generate some revenue for THORSwap and then Thor users.
Awesome. Okay, another question from Austin. Where does the additional Thor that's added as collateral for vTHOR come from?
That will come from the protocol revenue. So there's a THORchain affiliate fee, which will be used to essentially purchase on market Thor and then distribute back to the vTHOR pool.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that clarifies it. Pretty straightforward.
Right. Even have like kind of a double effect because you're taking Thor out of the market and putting it like in as value in the pool. And then it's just like as a reward to the user. So they are even more encouraged to have more Thor to get more rewards. So it's kind of a cyclical in some way.
Yeah, and it's more volume for that pool as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great analogy. Oleg.
Cool. What's the ETA for the aggregator, API, and Hammer wallet? So all the wins.
Soon.
Let's see. Soon.
Tonight.
Today's date plus 2 weeks. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. We're dropping V4 fee generation starting, and then soon V1 aggregator. Things are coming, guys. Things are coming.
Yep, and for Hammer Wallet, I see that I am allowed to say Q2 or Q3. So that's what we're expecting for Hammer. So that is exciting. Okay, let's look for some other questions here.
Guys, I'm gonna shoot. It's past midnight, and I need some Badger needs a deserved rest.
Sounds good. Get some degen rest and come up with some new composable strategies for vTHOR in your sweet dreams.
Crypto dreams are the weirdest. Right, appreciate your time, guys. Thank you for community members for joining. I can see there's Jane and Firen and Juggernaut, the usual suspects. So thank you guys for being in the community, and thank you everyone. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining, Badgers. And it's crazy what happens to your dreams when you start working too much in DeFi. We use a program called Postman to work with the API and when it's in development phase and to do testing. And I had a dream the other night, just like singing the Mr. Postman song over and over again in my dreams while I was, typing stuff into the API. So DeFi takes over your dreams for sure.
Oh man, that's pretty.
Yeah, because you've got to visually interpret this space, but there is no visual interpretation of it, so it's really bizarre, the dream, especially when it comes to coding and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways,
yeah, you must have some nightmares around bug. Yeah, later, Badger. I can only imagine as a dev that you have some nightmares too, with bugs coming up in your dreams or something.
I mean, not so much right now, but once the API launches and when we get like 10 million daily volume, hopefully sooner than we think, maybe I'll sleep with my laptop. No, I'm very confident. I mean, we're aiming for 100% test coverage, and we're right now, this week, we started the test plan, and we have like more than 400 tests that we want to do. So I'm fairly confident that all the different edge cases can be well covered, well explored, and well sorted out before this gets released.
That is awesome to hear. Cool. Quite a handful of questions, so might try to go through these a little bit quicker here. Some simple, some not. Moon DeLorean, all ERC20 tokens are already tradable as synths on THORSwap with any other native assets to avoid ETH gas, right? So yes, but that's only for the Thor chain integrated ERC20s. So there would not be synths for, say, anything on Uniswap or SushiSwap. But what you're saying is true. Yeah, for any ERC20 that does have its own Thor chain pool, you can already mint and trade synthetic versions of those ERC20s to avoid ETH gas. Cool. One sec. Will emissions rate be adjusted for Thor when vTHOR launches? I saw a few questions around this. Maybe would have been a better question for Badger. Do we have any? Do either of you have a more measured understanding of that? I just know it will scale down over time, but
the only thing I'll say to tease that is it will be spicy to start.
I think that's plenty. Yes, I would say it's safe to. I mean, without putting numbers, I would say it's safe to assume it's going to be higher than it has been, at least for some foreseeable future. Have a request here. We'll go to Jay Crypt. Wait, how do I do this on Discord? Bringing up a couple of people here. Jay, how's it going?
This is Chuck.
Go for it. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for letting me up here just to ask this question. So I guess the question's a simple one. If we have staked Thor right now, what's going to be the mechanism to let us know that we have to claim it so that we can restake it with the new contract?
Yeah, well, I would just say to keep your eye out for these updates in the next week or so. I'm sure exact stuff will be posted more officially. But yeah, the plan as of right now is that the vTHOR would go to the public on, May 4th? So basically, that would be the day to migrate. And as we mentioned before, there's definitely going to be some pretty compelling reason to want to be one of the earlier people to switch over. So I would say plan on May 4th being the day that you'll claim, unstake, and then restake into the new vTHOR contract. But just for kind of clarity, it'll just be, it's going to be very simple. It'll just be, basically you're withdrawing your current staking position back to just regular Thor, and then you're just staking your Thor into the new vTHOR staking contract. You're not having to, buy vTHOR or anything like that. vTHOR is just your representation of your staked Thor. So that'll be all there is to it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So
just quickly in the meantime, I saw some questions regarding audits. I'm not going to go too far with that, but all I can say is the contracts that are being used have been audited successfully, and the API has not been audited yet.
Sounds great. Yep, I see. Yeah, audit completed by Halborn and PeckShield for the general aggregator, and cool. Good to know. API will be coming as well. So still just some questions around the clarity about the fees. Yes, so it will be emissions and fees that are funding that are going to stakers. So yeah, combination of both. Emissions are not going away entirely, but this sets the stage for it to be more sustainable long term, and eventually be to a point where the pure usage and THORSwap fee is sustaining that yield. Okay, looking for some other questions here.
I got one from Milk that needs clarifying. So people who use the aggregator are not directly earning revenue for THORSwap, vTHOR, because there's no additional 0.3% fee. So there are quite a few things to clear up here. So basically, if you're using the aggregator, it will ask for a 0.3% fee if this is a cross-chain swap. For now, in the first phase and in the first version, if you're asking for a quote between two ERC20 tokens, and let's say the best provider is Uniswap v2, they already have their own 0.3% fee, and we won't add a 0.3% fee on top of that. And in any case, the vTHOR will be distributed, or I don't know what's the correct word, but they will be available for Thor stakers in the pool, but you're not earning vTHOR for using the aggregator, if I understood the question correctly. Great.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay. Skimming here for some other questions. Got a bit. Are the fees paid in Thor? Yeah, so it'll just your vTHOR. Basically, the conversion, the ratio between vTHOR to Thor just changes over time as more Thor is given into that contract. So you just hold on to your vTHOR. That's all you have to do, and it's redeemable for more Thor over time. So just to clarify that again. Yeah, maybe we can say a last round of questions in stage chat. If we missed you, maybe just ask it again. There were a few that got jumbled up, but yeah, we can do a last call for questions in there, and we'll wrap up. So yeah, it looks like there's still some questions around just clarifying like the split between fees and emissions. I don't know if there's more we can say on that, if we can really be certain yet until we see it playing out. But yeah, do either of you guys have anything more to add on like how the staking rewards, like what the split between emissions and fees might look like?
Not any exact numbers or anything, just that, we're going to keep the emissions high in the beginning to keep the APYs super attractive, to incentivize people over to vTHOR. And as we build volume, once the fees are turned on, we'll be able to adjust those dials over time to keep the APYs high while, keeping the inflation in the protocol sustainable over time.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, thanks for that. From Jay Cripps, we got your text question. Where is the best or most trusted place to get the THORSwap token? So that is a great question, and you're in the right place because THORSwap is the best place to get the Thor token. And conveniently, we actually have a video guide on this coming out either today or tomorrow. I actually just finished it up. So yeah, if people have not seen the THORSwap community YouTube, definitely check that out or subscribe over there, and more and more tutorials over time. But yeah, the next one to go up is going to be a walkthrough on exactly how to acquire Thor using THORSwap. So yeah, I would say that's your best place. Basically you're just looking at a single swap, right? So if you've used THORSwap before, if you've swapped anything on THORSwap, exactly the same process applies. You can swap to Thor from any compatible asset, native Bitcoin, BNB, Doge, ETH, Luna, UST, really anything. But yeah, one swap to ERC20 Thor. So you just need an ETH wallet to hold that in. You will see the synth version of Thor as well. Just to clarify that, since I've seen this question elsewhere, you can't stake that version. That's a Thor chain native representation of Thor. You could use that to get price exposure to Thor because it is 1-to-1. But if you want to do staking and take advantage of everything we've been talking about with vTHOR, then you're definitely going to want to go through for the real thing, the ERC20 version.
Awesome. I'm actually going to have to bounce myself as well. So I really appreciate everyone's time and just super excited to get vTHOR off the ground. I know we've been kind of teasing it and talking about it for many months now. So to be in the finish line, be able to get this thing out the door and start really providing value back to the community. Everyone who's been a supporter of Thor, held the Thor token for a while. It's a really exciting move for us, a really exciting time.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. And I think this is a good place to wrap up. Thanks, Oleg. Thanks, Mogarky. Late thanks to Badger again. And yeah, everyone who tuned in and asked questions. We hope you learned something and you're excited for vTHOR. It's really exciting that it's finally here right around the corner. And just personally, it feels like a new chapter for THORSwap for sure. So I know I'm really excited to get migrated over into vTHOR. And yeah, if people continue to have questions about this, of course you can ask in Discord. If people need any particular walkthroughs or tutorials, I'm your guy for that. Always welcome to ping me and make a request for a tutorial that you'd like to see. And we'll also have there will be a Twitter space a week from today as well. So that'll be kind of right in the middle of when the fee has been turned on, but vTHOR hasn't quite started yet. So feel free to check that out a week from today as well. But yeah, otherwise, thanks everyone for your time, and excited for everything to come.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Mogarky, and thank you to all the community that tuned in.
If you guys aren't following Chad on Twitter, or you're not on Twitter, join Twitter just to follow Chad. He's your THORchain THORSwap guy.
I'm the face for the real big brains like Mogarky and Oleg. I just find ways to type words about what the real builders are doing here. But I appreciate that. All right, guys. Yeah, thanks everyone, and yeah, see you next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.